Good morning, SDO Isabella. So this is our day 5. First and foremost, we would like to thank SDO Isabella for giving us the opportunity to be of help and to reach other science teachers in the field. We thank our very own Schools Division Superintendent, Dr. Madeline L. Macaling. Good morning, ma'am. Our ASDSS, Dr. Edna Abuan and Dr. Dante Marcelo. Allow me to greet our Chief of the CID, Dr. Rodrigo Pascua, and the SGOD Chief, Dr. Jesus Antonio. But not to forget our lead for this training, our Program Supervisor in Science, Dr. Maria Lourdes Bueno. Good morning, ma'am. To all teachers out there, to all our participants, my co-learning facilitators, the technical team who are helping us, a great day ahead of us. As your speaker for this webinar, you will be having a learning journey with me as I'll be introducing to you a pedagogy which is widely used in teaching science. Okay, so let's have an activity first. I will flash in a split second several words. I want you to get what are the words that you have seen. Again, I will flash in a split second several words and I want you to get the words that you have seen. Okay, are you ready? Okay, let's start. Okay, let's check your answers. What word is labeled 1? Yes, we have engage. Let's continue with the second word. Explore. The third word. Explain. It's followed by our fourth word. Elaborate. And lastly, evaluate. If you were able to get the 5 words, you are certified to have a sight with the speed of light. And when the 5 words are gone, what are the 3 letters that were revealed? We have IBL. That's true. Your eyes didn't fail you. The 3 letters are IBL, and IBL stands for Inquiry-Based Learning. So as we progress in this session, you will see the connections of the 5E, the 5 keywords, and IBL. Okay, so what is our objective for today's virtual training, for today's session? First, the teacher should be able to state the key features of inquiry-based learning, discuss the nature and coverage of each phase of the 5Es teaching instructional model, determine the stages of the 5E model in the procedure and evaluation part of the lesson, and use IBL in teaching of science in the different flexible learning options. Now, why do we have inquiry base? We have our legal basis. The IRR of the K-12, where is it? It is under standards and principles. Letter E, and it says, the curriculum shall use pedagogical approaches that are constructivist, inquiry-based, reflective, collaborative, and integrative. Though these are mentioned in the curriculum, we do not belittle other approaches, but it is in this session that we are focusing in inquiry-based because it is what the rule is saying. Hindi naman po natin iisang tabi ang ibang approaches which is already discussed by other speakers because they have their own advantages and disadvantages. Yes. Now, why inquiry-based? Again, this is anchored to international setting. This is from the National Research Council, National Science Education Standards. And it says, the science education community has embraced no idea more widely than inquiry or inquiry-based instruction. So when we say science, it is basically of inquiry-based, asking, promoting questions, probing questions. The students would be asking questions, and the students would be giving evidences, okay? So, though there are other kind of approaches, we need to learn this because it is anchored on a law and to international standards. The question is, what is inquiry there? And what is inquiry-based instruction? Let's have the scientific inquiry and the general knowledge of inquiry. When we say scientific inquiry, it refers to the diverse ways. It's the methods or techniques. Ibig sabihin, the child is doing something. Learning by doing, in which scientists study the natural world and propose explanation from the evidences derived from their work. But inquiry also refers to any activities of students in which they develop knowledge and understanding of scientific ideas as well as understanding of how scientists study the natural world. So let's go back to the first definition. How do they do that? They propose explanations by basing it to the evidences they obtain from their work. So once po the students have their perspective, the students work, do something, they gather evidences that would somewhat give explanations to a law or to a national jury. And that would be the inquiry-based learning. This time, what is inquiry-based instruction? Inquiry-based instruction is the creation of a classroom where students engage in essentially open-ended, student-centered, and hands-on activities. But the question is, are all hands-on activities an inquiry-based? No. Just like when students read and compare, there is an activity, but there is no gathering of evidence. So this would be some of the activities that student would do in inquiry-based instruction. First, questioning, meaning there is a question. Either the student would give the question or the teacher would give the question. It depends on the level of inquiry. But remember, there is a kind of question given. Second, investigating. There should be an investigation. Third, using evidences from the investigation to describe, explain, and predict. There should also be the connecting of evidences to knowledge and as well as sharing the result of your investigation. So, these are the key. The student activity in an inquiry-based instruction, teaching, and learning process. Inquiry-based learning finds its antecedent to constructivism, experiential learning, and social development. Constructivism or constructivist. The constructivist approach, are you familiar with it? And who is the proponent? Yes, it is John Piaget. For him, meaningful learning is when students or learners were able to construct new knowledge from prior knowledge or from his schema, there inquiry-based learning was originated. Okay po? How about an approach concerning learning by doing? So we have the experiential learning by John Dewey. Still here, learning by doing, but it must be connected to the own experiences of the learner or the child. Yung i-construct niyang knowledge is based on his personal experience. And we have third, it involves as well its social development. So may kinalaman po ang immediate society. Sa pag-build ng meaningful learning, so dyan po papasok ang tinatawag nating zone of proximal development that would lead sa kung anong alam ng bata sa hindi niya alam. So, what are we going to do as part of the environment of a child? We are part of his social development of the immediate society. So, as teacher, we need to help the child to reach from what he has and those he can do to those things that he cannot do. Na ang tawag natin dyan ay scaffolding. And that region is what we call the zone of proximal development. Pag di kaya ng isang bata na ma-reach ang isang skill, we need to scaffold. We need to assist the child to reach that skill or learning. So there are the importance and advantages of inquiry in teaching science. First, it develops useful problem-solving skills. Just what I've said a while ago. It starts with a question. So the aim and goal is to answer a question. So it develops a problem-learning skill. Second, learners prepare themselves to live in a world that is not static. For we know that change is the only permanent thing in the world. So for the children to adapt this change, there's a need for the children to ask questions, how to inquire, and how to gather evidences. Third, will enable learners to cope with changes that will increase in complexity throughout their lives. So there are some things that he can do and cannot do for this moment, and for him to do these complex things, the learners must use inquiry-based approach and provide learners tools for continuation of learning and attain important outcomes in the learning. How about the disadvantages of inquiry-based learning? It does not work for all science topics. On the part of the teacher, it requires more planning and preparation. Teachers must be skilled in helping the students learn the art of asking a good question. And it requires more class time. There are various levels of inquiry. Hindi naman pwedeng agad-agad ang grade 3 na bata. Learner ng science ay makapag-answer ng complex scientific question or makaka-perform ng complex experimentation or gathering of evidences. So there are kinds of level. Level 1, or the what we call, confirmation or verification. In this level, the problem is given by the teacher. And so with procedure and solution. Tingnan yung mabuti, look at the screen. So, anong ginagawa ng bata? The child listens, perform the procedures, and see if what they done is correct with the solution given by the teacher. We have the second level, level 2, or the structured inquiry. Why is structured? And what is the difference from the confirmation level? Look at the screen again. Who gives the problem? Yes, it is the teacher. Who gives the procedure? The teacher. But who gives the solution? It's the student. Yes. The teacher gives the problem. The teacher gives the procedure, meaning the experiment procedure, guided step-by-step procedure. But what is in there is the solution part, through which the guide questions are given to the students. The students would lead to giving the solutions. Third level, or the guided inquiry. The teacher gives the problem. The procedure now is being done and given by the student, and as well as the solution. Fourth level, it's the highest level of inquiry. The pure scientific inquiry. The problem is from the student, and so with the procedure and solution. So as if they are doing a scientific research or an investigation. Mga kailangan natin yan sa ating investigatory project. Yung bata ang mag-iisip ng procedure kung paano nila sosolusyonan yun, and in the end, they would also give solution. So, these are the levels of inquiry that we can use to our students, depending on the cognitive levels of our students. Now, ano po ang karaniwang ginagamit natin for intermediate level? Ano kaya? For grades 4, 5, and 6 students. Yes, structured. Kasi kayo ang nagbibigay ng procedure. Si student lang ang magbibigay ng kanilang generalization. Application based on the guide questions that you are providing them. As the learner proceeds with his learning experience, up to the 4th level po ang pwede niyang ma-reach. The inquiry-based approach utilizes this kind of model of learning, the 5E learning model. Start with engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and lastly, evaluate. Now, why 5E? So, we can apply those activities that we have mentioned earlier on this stage of learning. So, let's try to dissect each of the 5E in terms of what the teacher does and what the student does. Look at the screen. For engage, what is the aim for engage? Creates interest, generates curiosity, raise question, and elicit responses that uncover what the students know or think about the topic. You can demonstrate, read, write, analyze a graphic organizer, KWL, and brainstorming. You could ask question, why did this happen? What do I really know about this? And show interest in the topic. Sa explore part, it encouraged the students to work together without direct instruction from the teacher. But the teacher observes and listens to the students' idea as they interact. Explain naman. Ask probing question and provides time for student to puzzle through the problem, perform investigation, reading authentic material, solve problem, and construct model. This is what a student does. They think freely but with the limits of the activity. Test predictions, tries alternative and discusses them with one another and record. Yan ang mahalaga, for they should record their investigations. And to evaluate, meaning the teacher observes the students as they apply new concepts and skills. Assess students' knowledge or skills. Look for the evidences of the students that they have changed their thinking or behavior. It also allows students to assess their own learning. So, pwede po na ang student ang mag-evaluate ng kapwa niya estudyante. They ask open-ended question. Why do you think that this happened? What evidences do you have? What do you know about this? And how do you explain this? So the student will answer open-ended questions that are based on the evidences from the previous activity. What should teacher avoid? When we are in the engaged part of the lesson, ano po yung hindi dapat ginagawa ni teacher? Explaining the topic or opening the topic, telling, the lesson for today is evaporation. Hindi ganun. The teacher should hook up the student interest to the topic and arouse their curiosity with a given problem or solved situation. Explore naman. Ano yung hindi dapat ginagawa ni teacher? Allowing the students to do whatever they want. Dapat po, guided pa rin natin sila, even if it is in written or oral form. But put direction in the inquiry and set parameters or boundaries on what they should do or what they should not do. Have hands-on work. Doing all the talking and explain. Sino po ba ang mag-e-explain? Ayan, sa explain part. Sino ba ang mag-e-explain? The students. Ask the student to present their findings and reasons. Then you give feedbacks on their answers and some other input. So, ang bata po, the student will do the explanation of the evidences or the result of what they have gathered in the experimentation. Elaborate. Giving a test at once after discussion. After nag-explain sa bata, group 1 explanation, group 2 explanation, nagbibigay ng feedback. Okay, after that, get 1/4 sheet of paper. Ganun po ba? We need to elaborate what kind of knowledge the student have gained. So, extend the new situation or new challenges. And finally, evaluate. Assessing only with written or objective type of test. Ito palagi. Not always objective tests. Even if just one open-ended question would do to gauge and measure students if they have learned all through what they are of other 4 E's. So, use open-ended question. Or pwede kang magpa-drawing, exercises, or other type of assessment. 5 e-learning model versus 7 e-learning model. Sometimes po, a current model must be amended to maintain its value after information, insights, and knowledge have been gathered. Such is now the case with highly successful 5 e-learning cycle and instructional model. So nakita nila along the way that there is some point of expansion. of improvement of the 5E, but still the core is the 5E. The 7E is just part of the 5E. 5E learning model versus 7E learning model. Tingnan nyo mabuti. Tingnan tumingin sa screen. Yung engage part, the left side shows the 5E. Ano yung 5E? We have engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. On the right side, it gives the 7E. Anong nangyari sa engage? Yes, hinati lang. It becomes elicit and engage. So, nadagdagan ng isang E, which is elicit. Explore and explain is the same. And there would be now some sort of union between elaboration and evaluation. Pwede dyang maglaro yung elaboration, evaluation, and extension, but perhaps elaboration and extension is just the same concept or idea. How are we going to use this in the DLL and DLP, which is in the department order number 42? So these are the procedures given in a DLL and DLP. A to J. Nasaan dyan ang 5E and 7E model? Yes, it is also back with constructivist theory, experiential learning, as well as factor in cognitive development theory. So, tingnan nyo mabuti. Yung first A, reviewing previous lesson or presenting new lesson. Ano pong model? Eliciting. But the ABC would also be encompassed in the engage. Yes. Discussing new concepts 1 and 2 in exploration stage, just like in the 7E, the same. Developing mastery, that would be the explain. Finding practical application and making generalization, that is in the elaboration part. Sa evaluation, letter I. Magkakaroon lang tayo ng difference sa J. Kasi sabi sa J, if there's a need for activities for application or remediation, and so that is elaborate in 5E and extend naman in 7E. The challenge now is after having learned the IBL and the 5Es, the next task of a teacher is to find out which among of the flexible learning options will be the most effective. Online, radio and TV based, blended, modular, or homeschooling. I know, dear science teachers, that you have participated on the first webinar of the SDO Isabela dealing with the flexible learning options. Now, which among them can be used in IBL? Is it online, radio and TV based, blended, homeschooling, or modular? Actually po, almost all of them can be used. However, there are factors that needs to be considered. There are factors that we need to consider for us to choose among the flexible learning options which will suit in the smooth delivery of instruction. In ending, let me give you some useful tips. First, know your students. Check out the resources they have. Do they have internet connectivity? We also have to know the resources of the community. And The learning resources to be used are highly dependent on teachers' creativity and resourcefulness. Another, the learning resources of the community. And last, the learning modality or platform to be used is sometimes predetermined by the most essential learning competency or MELC by the Department of Education. As I end my session, I just would like to give credit and acknowledge the source of some of the materials of my session from NTOT Primals of 3 to 6, original material of Mr. Julivan R. Abrea, and my references, the Implementing Rules and Regulations of the Philippine K-12 Basic Education Program, Barrow, A Brief History of Inquiry from Dewey to Standards, Journal of Science Teacher Education, Frazen S. of 2009, Inquiry-Based Learning, 3 Alberta Schools That Know What It Takes, Frazen S. and Jardine 2009, 21st Century Learning and Learners, and the 5E Instructional Model of Karplus and Thier, 1967. Thank you for being with me, and I hope that you enjoyed the session. You've learned something from our discussion and apply it in your virtual classrooms. Truly, in SDO Isabela, kahit nasa home or nasa bahay ka, our endeavor of bringing quality basic education never stops. Before the pandemic, from your homes, you go and learn in school. Now we take a shift. The challenge is very much accepted. We now bring the school to your homes. Once more, this is Ana Marie D. Seperes signing off.